everybody. Thank you for joining me for today's live stream. Oh, I forgot. I thought I silenced this. There we go. All right. So first off, yep, it's the first stream of the week. Danny getting the ball rolling with memberships. And I always like to start off the week gifting some memberships as well to try and match your incredible generosity. So there we go. 5 memberships from me. Oh, look at X-Men Superfan. Always so incredibly generous. All right, and so also the other thing that I want to point out is it would be super sweet if you were to subscribe. I know that sometimes I'm a little bit later than I said I would be on live streams, but if you subscribe and if you hit that little bell as well, you'll always know, you'll get a 30-minute heads up at least when a live stream is going to go up, and then they'll take some of the guesswork out of that. All right, so yes, I'm rocking the glasses and the side ponytail. Woo, hey art lover, it's been a day. Woo, don't worry, tomorrow I will be more fresh. Okay, the reason I'm a little bit late is that I was all set to go with the live stream, but then I ordered a little something special for my Tron Ares coverage, and it just came. And at my new location, or my temporary location, it's a little hard for me to get packages here. So they were like, come down and get it. And I was like, oh my God. So I went down and then I was like, why is this wrap so funny? It's from China. So I unwrapped it and then I got hit with a wave of chemicals in my face, which made me feel all woozy. I was like, how am I supposed to go live and have it in the office? You know, with these chemicals driving me, you know, I'm very chemical sensitive because of some of the experiences I've had. So I had to go and find like a plastic bag to put it in so that I could focus. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. It depends on how good it looks when it's, when I have to take a better look at it. I don't want to give away what it is. Ha ha ha, I hope it works out. I worked really freaking hard on it. I was so glad that it came on time. And then when I opened it, I was like, oh, it smells so bad. Okay, it was not from Chernobyl. Don't freak me out about it, please. Okay, has anyone ever ordered anything from China and then it didn't smell so good but eventually got better? Here's hoping. I mean, it wasn't cheap. Okay, we'll see what happens. All right, Pie, I haven't even seen Kiss of the Spider Woman yet. I'm supposed to get a screening link in the next few days, so it'll probably be early next week. All right, so I'm glad to see some of you have had, I can't give away what it is. It's not washable. All right, let's see. The smell lingers for a few weeks. My goodness. Well, maybe I'll air it out overnight when I'm not in here. And then when I come in the morning, I'll be like, oh. Okay. Oh, ready. Let's see here. Okay, so we've got, I'm not telling you what it is. I just hope it works out. I really want it to work. Worked really freaking hard on it. Okay, all right, so we have some really great stories for the day. And then I'm sorry I didn't get to talk about the Simpsons story because I had these other 3 stories. I even, in fact, combined 2 of them into one. But The Simpsons doesn't have enough really to discuss. The only thing I wanted to say about The Simpsons, because I thought it was funny, was that Jennifer Tilly's just going to make more money. For those of you who aren't aware, Jennifer Tilly became a friend of the Housewives this season on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And people were like, how does she have so much money? Like, Jennifer Tilly has so much money, she literally has money to burn. And she spends it like on crap. The most expensive crap I've ever seen. She's like, I'd love a Louis Vuitton purse in the shape of a boat. And you're like, yeah, exactly, Ryan. You're like, why would you spend money on that? Hey, Jennifer. Apparently she does give a lot of money. Jennifer Tilly apparently does give a lot of money away to charity. But it's crazy that she's on there. And she just has so much. Jennifer Tilly has so much money, she literally doesn't know what to do with it. So everybody watching was like, where the heck did all this money come from? And she explained that she was married to one of the co-creators of The Simpsons. And even though they were divorced, she cared for him when he was sick. And I think it was also part of her divorce settlement, but at the end of the day, she has a part. Oh, thank you. His name was Sam Simon. Thank you, Dwight Baldwin. She got a part of his Simpsons royalties. So Jennifer Tilly's tiny little sliver of his royalties, which aren't even all of them. That's how much money The Simpsons generates, by the way. That Jennifer Tilly has such a small percentage of it, and that's how much she just gets so much money from it. That's incredible. I do want to say that I think Jennifer Tilly does deserve what she got. I'm a big fan of, I think spouses deserve a cut of the earnings that were made when you were together, because they help to facilitate you being able to do that. That's the way it is. And by the way, it goes both ways. Plenty of successful women have had to pay their ex-husbands money as well. Just ask poor Jennifer Hudson. Jennifer Hudson has to support her really deadbeat ex, who's a horrible. I mean, I don't know anything about him, but I didn't like some of his comments. Let's just say that. Oh yeah, Kelly Clarkson had to pay a bunch of money. So it goes to everybody. It helps. Everybody has to deal with this. So sign those prenups. Okay. I hope Taylor Swift doesn't have to end up paying Travis Kelce a bunch of money. She really should make him sign a prenup. I'm really nervous for her. I'm really nervous because he has so much money of his own. He doesn't need her money. She should say, "You get nothing, Travis." That should be his first test. Nothing, Travis. You get absolutely zero money. I mean, he's already getting a ton of money off of the business opportunities he's making. You know what? Travis Kelce is treating Taylor Swift, I hope I don't get in trouble for this, the way Donald Trump is treating the United States of America. It's like his own personal piggy bank, right? Like, he's like, I can make so much money off of this deal. Like, it's the exact same thing. All right, so be careful, Taylor. I'm very nervous for you. I'm very nervous for Taylor Swift. I hope it's true love. Okay. Let's get on to the first story on that note. I think a lot of you know what I'm talking about. We all see it. We're all too afraid to say it because we don't want to be mean to Taylor, and also because she wants to be in love so bad, and also because Swifties are really mean. They're so mean. They're so mean. Oh my God, the fans of female musicians and singers are some of the meanest people I've ever met online. Okay. And I can't help myself now. Okay. Somebody should say it to her. Somebody should say it to her. All right, story number 1. Boop. All righty, here we go. This is an incredible story, and I continue to be amazed that no one is talking about it. The conservatives and basically the Republican Party are very aggressively, they're taking over capitalism and business and commerce in the way that you only really see the bad countries do it, right? You're like, wait a minute, nobody in the West really is supposed to do this. And I think Trump was like, why not? And the fact that they're getting away with it is, again, I don't even know what the Democrats are doing over there, man. All right, so let's talk about it. But what they're doing with Hollywood and entertainment is really, really important to note, because it's been a long criticism of the entertainment business that it's been so aligned with Democrats. Although we'll see. With the second story, I think Democrats are starting to learn a little bit from Republicans, in terms of strategy. But I think that, finally, it took them forever, and they had to get enough money. But finally, conservatives were like, well, why don't we just take over Hollywood, and then it'll stop saying stuff bad about us. And so I'm not sure what the entertainment business is going to look like, in the next few years. All right, so it started with Elon Musk, and he was like, I don't like what Twitter says about me, and I think he said he felt he could weaponize Twitter. In fact, I believe the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, right? I believe the other day he was saying that TikTok was a weapon. It was something that could be weaponized and had to be seen that way because it fights for the hearts and minds of people. And that was a very transparent comment that you rarely see from people. And I believe that that's true. And I think that Elon Musk was like, hey, I'm going to not only, people thought that he bought Twitter because they didn't like that. People joked at the time that he bought Twitter because he didn't like what they were saying about him and he wanted to control it. But in fact, he used it and with algorithms to move it to the far right and to use it as a tool or a weapon, as Netanyahu said, to influence people to join the political movements that he's interested in. He did it very effectively in the United States, and he's doing it very effectively in a lot of European countries as well. It's not going perfectly, but it's a concern. You know, when I was in London over the holidays, I was amazed. Well, this is actually more Rupert Murdoch, but almost every London cabbie was like turning on Fox News, and they didn't have any of their own thoughts. They didn't have anything to add to the conversation. They were just literally repeating verbatim the talking points from Rupert Murdoch's papers. You know, Rupert Murdoch, of course, started in the UK before coming to the United States with Fox. So that was incredible. It was weird almost. Okay. I mean, the things that they were advocating were not great, but, you know, they seemed like nice people. And so I felt kind of like they were being taken advantage of. All right. I mean, it's perfectly fine to consider different thoughts and everything, but what really bothered me was that they couldn't add anything to it themselves. You know, they weren't taking, Reese knows what I'm talking about. Like, they weren't like taking the information and processing it and then coming up with their own opinion. They were just literally repeating what they were told. And so that was like bizarre. All right, so then the Ellisons, which are now, Larry Ellison is now the richest person in the world, surpassing Elon Musk. And he's decided to, with his children, particularly his son David, they're buying up a considerable amount of Hollywood. So, of course, they just closed a deal on Paramount. The rumor is they might be buying Warner Brothers by the end of the year. Nothing yet, just exactly. So we'll see if that actually does happen. But we'll see. We'll see how long, if that happens. And then they've also been potentially making a move on TikTok. And they're partnering with who? The Murdochs. Now the Murdoch family is run by one of his sons. I forget which one won the competition in real life succession. There's Lachlan, one of them. One of the Murdoch kids took over, and so he's going to go in. I think he's slightly more or less political. I don't know. Oh, was it James? Who? Oh, no, so you're talking about somebody else. But anyway, it looks like Murdoch and Ellison, those two families, are going to team up to buy TikTok, which would make TikTok extremely conservative. So that's just like, I just can't believe that nobody's talking about this. It's just, you see it and you're like, oh my gosh. All right. Then even more shocking, yesterday, Electronic Arts, one of the biggest video game companies, they do basically like Madden and stuff like that. I don't think they're The Sims. I don't think they're doing any huge video games right now. But anyway, China hasn't confirmed the purchase of TikTok, but it's moving. They're entering discussions, and they do have to have some U.S. ownership, at least for the U.S. It's $55 billion. Oh, sorry, that's a typo. So this is $55 billion. But anyway, so Electronic Arts has been purchased. It's going private. I think it's right now obviously a publicly traded company. And Jared Kushner and some business partners from Saudi Arabia for $55 billion, I'm sorry, again, that's a typo, are buying the company and taking it private. I don't know why conservatives would want video games. Are they going to make more conservative video games? What would a conservative video game look like? I don't think that video games, I don't know. They could argue, where did all this begin? Interestingly enough, with video games, with Gamergate back in the day. That's where you saw this very first toxic, woke, we don't want your politics in our games or our entertainment kind of scenario. And Gamergate very slowly spread out into all the other areas of entertainment. So maybe they could argue that their games are, and like, look what's happening with Naughty Dog, first with The Last of Us Part 2, and then this upcoming intergalactic game, which people have a lot of problems with, conservatives do. So I do wonder if potentially they might be like, well, that's not going to be at this video game company. Maybe that might be maybe they're just in it to make money, but I'm still very suspicious of it. And then I also wanted to point out that the Trump family is very much, in the Trump circle, is very much involved with Saudi Arabia. That's right, Fabio. Saudi Arabia is very powerful. They have a ton of money there. So, for instance, just the other day, that's why I'm always reading stuff so I can put everything together. I watched 3 Days of the Condor, and Robert Redford, that was basically his job for the CIA. That movie started out pretty good. I liked spotting all the New York locations. A lot of them, I was like, I go right around there all the time. So that was pretty funny. And I was like, it still looks a lot like that, even though this was filmed in the 70s. So basically, it's the same kind of thing. But I was reading about the Pierre Hotel here in New York City. Is Jared that conservative, Britt? He's married to Ivanka Trump. So I'd say he's pretty much, he's pretty involved here. Not to mention, I believe his father briefly went to prison for some illegal activities in business. Okay, so anyway, I think his family is a real estate empire. Like the Kushners are big in real estate in New York City. So anyway, the Pierre Hotel, where interestingly Michael Eisner currently lives, and we're talking, that's such a small world. Everything's so connected. We're about to talk about the Disney situation where Michael Eisner, for the first time in a long time, weighed in on what was going on at Disney, even though he's been retired. And Michael Eisner lives in the Pierre Hotel. You know who else lives in the Pierre Hotel or has an apartment there? Sherry Redstone, who of course just sold to the Ellisons with Paramount. So a lot of people live in the Pierre Hotel, but it's apparently seen better days. But the person who owns the penthouse, thank you, Michael. The person who owns the penthouse is Howard Lutnick, which I believe is Trump's commerce secretary, who doesn't even live there. But it's a financial investment. And what is his financial investment? Well, Howard Lutnick wants to sell the whole company, the whole hotel, and because he owns the penthouse, he has a larger voting block than anybody else. He wants to flip it and sell it to Saudi Arabia. And also, I think, the Dorchester hotels, which are owned by somebody, I think, a family in Brunei. So, of course, the people who currently live in the Pierre are, some of them are appalled and they don't want to move, but some of them are like, yeah, I'd love to flip my condo and get a lot more money for it. But I'm seeing a lot of connections between the Trump circle and the Middle East, which is something that people should be paying attention to. All right, so then, of course, also something that happened just the other day, is that Trump brought up this movie tariff again. He said he's going to charge 100% tariff on any movie that films outside of the United States. Now, we talked about this when it first happened. Now I'll tell you my theory about that in a moment, okay? But let me just tell you the logistics of it. I do think that the United States is suffering, and I know that when this happened, a lot of, in terms of jobs for film. And I know that this was really a tough decision, a tough discussion, because of course people want to protect entertainment jobs here in the United States, not just in California, but also in Georgia, etc. A lot of states across the country do very well. But then, of course, for those of you who live in other places that are becoming production hubs, you want to make sure that you're able to be in the movie business. I don't know why it's always reliant on Hollywood. The UK has a very robust entertainment business, so they should certainly be able to. But they certainly don't have the budgets or the productions at the size. Like nobody in the UK is making a Marvel movie, right, or a DC movie. So I think they're not making any superhero or they're not. Hollywood is still the only place making those big blockbusters that are going to employ tons and tons of people. They lack scope, Mystic. That's a great way to put it. All right, so anyway, I think that you have a real issue in that it is bad that I do feel that obviously you want to be able to film anywhere in the world where the location is crucial to what you're filming, right? Like Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Of course he wants to go and shoot on location. But the issue I think that is worth discussing is sound stages, where you're just literally shooting in a box. So why can't that box be in America? Now, of course, I'm sensitive to the fact that the box in the UK pays for a lot of people's jobs and allows them an entry point into the industry. So I think that it was fine when it was more spread out, but now almost every Hollywood major production is going overseas. And it's getting to the point where, especially after the strikes, people can't make a living anymore in the movie business in the country that largely invented it. So that, obviously, Trump is the president of the United States, and so his job is, when the rare few times he does it, is to look out for, United States citizens. So I think 100% tariff is really aggressive. But I mean, there might be some incentive. Like, you're supposed to work. The whole reason that studios are sending their productions overseas is because of the incentives that they're given. And so they get big tax breaks and stuff like that. So, that I think is something that could be discussed. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. But this is what I think is really happening. Trump is making a heck of a lot of money off of lawsuits and business deals. And he's threatening this, threatening it, but he hasn't introduced any legislation to do it. So my suspicion is that he wants to make a deal. He wants somebody in Hollywood to call him and make him an offer, which is, really bad. It's so bad. Like, look what just happened with Trump RX, right? So I think that these tariffs are a threat to make people do business with him. So today, Trump and Pfizer just announced an initiative called Trump RX. It's a government website, so then I don't know why Trump is on the name of it, okay? I just think that's crazy that the government would allow Trump to have his name on something that they're paying for, right? I guess to give Trump credit would be fine, but I've never seen another president do that. But, it's the same idea that, Mark Cuban has a drug website that does this, and also GoodRx. I think it was just J. Jonah Jameson. Obamacare is a fair comparison, but it wasn't actually called Obamacare. Wasn't that just a nickname for it? Like, if people were just calling it Trump RX, that'd be fine. But they're not. That's the actual name. Like, when you logged onto the government website to get the Obama administration's health care, it didn't say, "Welcome to Obamacare." Okay? So that's like a really big, that's a big difference. Yeah, the Affordable Care Act. Thank you. And people just called it Obamacare. If people wanted to call this just Trump RX, that'd be fine. But it's actually called Trump RX. To me, that raises the question is, will Trump make money off of this even when he's out of office? He shouldn't be making any money off of it. So what happened is that he slapped Pfizer with a ton of tariffs. And then he said, if you make this deal to sell your drugs at a lower cost, only, not to the American people through anything, but only through Trump RX, if you make a deal with me, you don't have to pay the tariffs. So that's what I suspect. I don't know what the deal is that he wants. Maybe he says, make me an offer. Maybe he doesn't even know the deal that he wants. Like, for instance, YouTube just paid him $22 million to settle a lawsuit after the January 6th when they stopped his channel. What? So I think he's like, I think he's threatening this tariff, and maybe he wants some kind of deal, where the studios give him a cut of the movie profits, right? I mean, like, I think he doesn't know what he wants. I think maybe he's like, make me an offer. And so I think this, why don't you come over here? Like I talked the other day about how the tech people keep going to the White House and being like, oh, thank you, but the studios aren't. The studios don't go over there at all, certainly not publicly. So I think Trump is like, hey, I'd love to have a dinner where I've got Iger and Zaslav and Ellison sitting there and you're all talking to me, and I think that's what he's looking for. So we'll see. I mean, because why is it just all talk? Why doesn't he actually introduce legislation to get a tariff in? I mean, I think he just has to sign it, right? Isn't that how it works? But yeah, and everyone's just happening. Everyone's just like, look at that. That's crazy. Look at that, man. Like, I don't know why nobody does anything about it, And again, it's hard to do something about it because the Republicans control every single division. Because that's what the election gave them. So I don't know if it's going to be 3.5 more years of this. I think it depends on if the next election the Democrats can get a majority in the House and or the Senate. Then you might have a little bit of a change. We'll see. But yeah, I told you before that Trump thinks like a business person, and that's what makes him very different than any other politician that we've had so far. He's running the United States like a business. However, the issue is that he's also for him and his family and his circle, they're trying to make as much money off of the opportunity as they can. And they're making a lot of money off of it. They're making a ton of money. Like I think in lawsuit settlements alone, he got $22 million from YouTube. He got $15 million from Disney over the George Stephanopoulos thing, although George Stephanopoulos really messed up there. If I were Disney, I would have made George Stephanopoulos pay that himself, because what he did was libel. And then they got another $10 million from Paramount for the CBS or something. I think it all right now is going to his presidential library, but I mean, who's watching that really closely? So yeah. So Danny, I don't think the president gets very much. I think it's like $250K. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with making a lot of money off of the office once you leave, through book deals and things like that. I mean, to be totally fair, I'll be fair, Barack Obama is the first president I've ever seen, and especially since he left the office when he was quite young, he's doing a lot, much more than most presidents would retire, they'd write a book, and they would make a lot of money off of speaking engagements. That's how presidents used to make money when they left. But Barack Obama has started a Hollywood production company. Maybe that's something, I never thought of that. Trump really has a problem with Barack Obama. He's like very competitive with him. So maybe because the Obamas are doing so incredibly, actually the Obamas are quite successful in Hollywood. Maybe that's one of the reasons that Trump wants to get in there. And he's like, me too. I mean, don't forget, who's responsible for Trump? Hollywood. Hollywood made him the household name that he is because of The Apprentice. Everybody loved The Apprentice. I watched The Apprentice. Everybody watched it, and it did a lot to build up Trump's reputation and legitimacy. So, it's crazy. It's crazy. We live in like the things that you wouldn't think were true. Like if you were to go back a long time ago and you were to say, I'm from the future, and this is what happened, they'd be like, that's ridiculous. No way that's what happened. And you'll be like, no, it did. It's nuts. It's every bit as crazy as it sounds, man. All right, so that's what I think is going on right now. I'm surprised that Hollywood, again, just like what always happens to the Democrats, I don't know why they're not doing anything about it. Like it's going to come, like I think in about maybe 1 or 2 years, this is going to be a real problem. And everyone's going to be like, how'd this happen? And you'll be like, why didn't you do anything to stop it when you could? And they were like, let's use it to try and get votes. I think the Democrats are just as responsible for fear-mongering. Like, remember everybody was like, why didn't you codify Roe v. Wade? And I think because they wanted to use it as a fear thing, as a stick to get people to vote for Democrats. Because they could have, when they had a long time, they could have taken care of it. Also, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Her legacy, man. Let's see here. Zetas Lapidus says, I'm really nervous that these updates so Zetas says that Zetas is very nervous that these updates and the catering to AI will destroy Hollywood forever. I'm concerned about it. And the fact that so many people are okay with AI. I think that that's alarming, that people want to watch a fake person. I mean, they've tried to do some things like that before a couple of years ago, maybe about 10 years ago. Remember they tried to make that computer lifelike animated movie based on some video game? Nobody went to see it. So hopefully that's the case. Hopefully people just won't support these things and Hollywood will be like, darn it, there's no money here, and they'll move on. So it's really, again, at the end of the day, it's up to you, right? Or the general public, right? Like, we're a democracy. People have to vote, right? So if Trump's president, it's because the voters wanted it. If Mamdani wins the New York electoral mayoral campaign, it's because he was voted in. And, if Hollywood turns to AI, it's because people watch it and they make money off of it. So, that's really what's important to remember. Lloyd says, Grace, what are your thoughts on the growing conservative influence over major media outlets and how this shift might erode journalistic independence? I hope it's a pendulum effect. I do feel that nowadays, the problem with news is that news has to have ads on it. And so they're audience based. They have to be quote unquote successful. They have to have viewership. So they tell people what they want to hear instead of what they should be hearing. And so I think that's one of the main reasons that news is broken, particularly mainstream news. So I don't think right now, I'll tell you honestly, I don't think there's any good news. I think all news is skewed in some area of the political spectrum. I think it's extremely hard to just get the facts and to get an honest assessment. I mean, I try to do that, but I think it's very hard to find it anywhere. But yeah, so I think I'm a little concerned about it, but something has to be done because Trump won, and none of the outlets predicted it. And so, I'm also a big fan of, you have to reflect your audience. Buck's Basement says, leverage buyout is usually the first sign that a company will die in a couple of years. I'm not sure what you mean by leverage buyout, though. And then Zach Likes Movie says, is that Scooby-Doo? Is your photo there? The EA purchase has a lot of people in the Sims community worried because the Sims games have always been inclusive and diverse. That's very interesting. I mean, I think, hopefully Jared Kushner wants to make money. I mean, I don't see a lot of conservatives playing Sims. So, I mean, they should really think about, again, who are they selling to? Okay. I saw somebody say, boop, please. Well, Rick, we'll move ahead in just a second. That's right, Roman. You vote with your dollar, which is actually a great way to go to the next story. That's a great segue. But let me just do a quick couple of questions here. Jerry says, how long before the orange guy imposes a tariff on movie production costs not being... Well, he's threatened it twice. Let's see what happens. I don't know if he'll start out with the... Let's see. Let's see what he decides to do. Alpha Wolf says, I think the reason conservatives take over Hollywood is because the Dems did it before. It feels more like they follow the money power than politics. No, I think it's a mix. I think it's a mix of things. All right, you guys are ready to boop. Let's boop on out of here, man. Okay. Oh, casts, you mean? Fahad? Oh. All right, let's see. Let me go down to the next story. Oh, we've been talking about this for half an hour. My goodness. Let's boop. Okay. Thank you for your patience. All right. Now, let's switch to a shocking thing where the Democrats are taking a page from the Republican playbook against Disney. Disney's like, we just can't catch a break, damn it. Boop. All right. Disney's like, why is it always us? Okay. Because Disney gets clicks to their detriment. You're looking to make a headline? Stick Disney in the headline, and it's going to get more attention. That's just the that's just the cold hard truth of the reality that the studio lives in. All right, so what's happening? Potential lawsuit. So there's been, as many people said, a $4 billion loss in the Disney stock. I think that's hyperbole, as we're going to discuss, but that's the headline. They're like, $4 billion with a B. Oh, we're so upset. Okay. So they're saying, we're going to sue unless you give us your books and your records, like your emails. They want to see all the behind-the-scenes conversations that took place with the Jimmy Kimmel situation when he was temporarily suspended. They're like, give us everything. And Disney's like, ha, 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 no way, because it's going to leak, and Disney doesn't want their emails leaking. They don't want it. I mean, what are they looking for, right? Like, just sue me, man. Like, that's the thing. When you look at these things, Trump threatening a tariff but not actually doing one, threatening a lawsuit but not actually, yeah, it is like the Sony email leaks pie, threatening a lawsuit but not actually filing one. Like, you got to really stop, and think and strategize and be like, what are you asking me? Why are you doing this? So I think they want the emails. I think they want it. I think they want to know what the reasoning was behind was it truly that they were afraid of the Trump administration? Or was it, as I said, to protect Jimmy Kimmel and the company from themselves, from Kimmel? So we'll see what happens. Now, what's interesting to me is that I was like, surely these are some conservative organizations. No! It's a bunch of liberal organizations that are asking for this, that are threatening to sue. And that is right out of the conservative playbook. For the past couple of years now, if there's a group that wants to sue, it's usually a conservative group. They're like, we're going to take you to court. And that's how they get headlines and stuff like that. And now these liberal organizations, they've decided that they're going to do it. All right. And they're getting a lot of headlines out of it because everybody's like, oh, is Disney going to get sued? The drama. And so it's a big story. So by the way, so it's the American Federation of Teachers. And I Googled it. I looked, I checked. These are all left-leaning organizations. The AFL-CIO, and that's basically a union, a conglomerate of unions. And then also Reporters Without Borders. And you might be like, well, why the heck do these organizations have so much stock? Well, a lot of organizations invest their sometimes retirement funds. Like whenever you watch a movie, they're like, oh, the firefighters, we invested a lot of money in your company. And we're very upset. We're going to pull our investment if you don't do it. So stuff like that. So, because, a very good way to usually grow your money slowly but surely is through large-scale investments and stocks that are typically performers. So, you don't take big risks, but you put in like your pensions, you put in your retirements, you put in your operating costs, and you buy a lot. I mean, unions have a ton of money, so they own quite a bit of stock. Now, do they have a case? So, because Disney's been like very quiet. Disney won't answer them. They're like, give us your emails. And Disney's like, who that? Who? Do you hear a voice? I don't hear a voice. So that's kind of like what's going on at the moment. Now, let's take a look at the stock, because I don't really think they have a case. All right, so this is the past month. Yes, it's down, okay? So it's down like $4. So I'm like, are you freaking kidding me with this? $4? Give me a break. Because not only is it only down $4 in the past month, but look at this. In the past 6 months, the stock is still up. So they've still made money, and it's held relatively steady since, this downturn when the heck is that? I can't read that. In May 2025, it was pretty freaking low. As you can see, it was under $100. So you're like, what the heck are you complaining about? It didn't drop considerably. And then if you look at the past 5 years, this is very interesting. So hold on, I'll be back. All right, so let me get my arrow so we can look at this. All right, here is where it is today. Woo, at 114. Now here it is at its high point at 197, almost $200 a share. This was during the pandemic when Disney Plus was going into overdrive and everybody thought Disney was going to make a lot of money. And then it very slowly started to drop. Now, when did that happen? Let's discuss it. I think you know when it started to fall, and that is when Bob Chapek and Ron DeSantis started to fight. That's when Disney stock started to fall, basically around that point. So I don't know, I'd be like, what are you blaming me for? Why don't you go sue nobody's offered to sue when Chapek and DeSantis were fighting. Why don't you sue Chapek for causing such political issues that our stock started to fall, right? I mean, it fell from 200 and it's never gone that back up high enough. Then, of course, there was all that shareholder drama, I think just last year, actually, with Nelson Peltz and Isaac Perlmutter. The return of Isaac Perlman, the fired Marvel, by the way, also conservative. Both these guys are conservative. Oh, here we go. Both these guys are conservatives. Nelson Peltz, whose daughter is married to David Beckham and Victoria Beckham's son, Brooklyn, I think. So they're married, and I think both of them are unemployed and just spend Nelson Peltz's money. And then Isaac Perlmutter, who terrorized everybody at Marvel, including Kevin Feige, until Bob Iger forced him out. And then Isaac Perlmutter tried to take over the company with Nelson Peltz, and they failed. The shareholders did not support them in that endeavor. So what you're really looking at here is shareholders versus executives. Now, I don't think that the shareholders have a right to sue over an individual incident, like the handling of the Kimmel situation, particularly because the stock is still, where's my thing? The stock is still up. It's up in the past 6 months. It's still, they haven't lost that gain. So why don't you sue back with the Chapek DeSantis situation? I feel like if you're unhappy with the leadership, then you vote in new leadership. Or you vote in a new board member, which is what Nelson Peltz wanted. Nelson Peltz wanted to join the Disney board. Like, that's the strategy that you're supposed to take. So I don't really think that they have a case. I think they're trying to get headlines, and I think they're trying to make the headline be, what is Disney hiding? They're like, why won't Disney give us their emails and their records? And then Disney, because Disney's like, because it's none of your damn business. That's why. You know? We're still making you money. I don't want to hear it. But let's see if Disney can, I'm sure Disney is trying to get the stock back up. I mean, they're only a $4 loss in the past month. They're only down $4. So they should be like, what can we do to raise the stock $4? Quick, think of something. Whoever thinks of it can be the new Bob Iger. I'd be like, come on, somebody, think of something to get the stock up $4, please. Like, that's the issue. Like, and I think they're betting that as slowly as lawsuits move, by the time they actually get to court, they'll be back up, and then they'll be like, I don't want to even hear it. So that's the situation. James says Star Wars MCU. James, you scared the crap out of me. I thought that was an actual announcement while I was live. I was like, did they just announce that? Oh my God. But no, that's funny. I don't know about that. But something. How about the Disney Princess crossover movie that we've all been asking for? So does anybody have any questions or comments about this story? Where'd my arrow go? Let me make the stock a little bit smaller so I can see you guys better. Boop. Tyler says the Scarlet Witch solo film. I don't know. I think that ship might have failed. I'm afraid. I'm worried about it. Juan, we'll get to the next story in just a moment. Pi says, does this mean Dana Walden won't be the next CEO of Disney? I don't know. I think Dana has a real shot. I got to tell you. I think Disney just has to wonder if they want a female executive because so many people are. I mean, that's sad. So, but she has to be really, really good for them to be like, it's worth it. They'll love her. Oh, Babette wants to know who I think will be the next Disney CEO. At this point, I would have to guess Dana. I think Dana, if you read about the things that have gone on at Disney behind the scenes, there was a really good article about the return of Iger in the New York Times. Dana Walden was instrumental in that, and she's very close with Bob Iger. I know that everybody, what's that guy, Josh, whatever, who runs the theme parks? Josh D'Amaro. Thanks, Pi. I don't know. I think that he's really dropped the ball, and Universal has really been like, beating the crap out of Disney in the theme park division. So I'd be like, I don't even know if you're going to keep the job you have right now, Josh, if I was being honest. I don't know why everybody's so reluctant to fire people. I'd be like, oh God, you really embarrassed me in front of Universal. You're out of here. But I guess it's been a long time coming, so maybe it's Bob Chapek's fault. Yeah, blame it on Bob Chapek. It was his fault. But yeah. So I would actually, at this point, I would guess Dana Walden. Good for her. I'd love for. I hope she's successful. She better not. I'd be like, Dana, if you turn into another Kathleen Kennedy, I will be so freaking upset with you. Okay. Mike says, how about a Disney Plus series on this? No, but maybe a Ryan Murphy feud. That'd be hilarious. Elise says, Disney will drag this out forever. That's the name of the game when dealing with large companies and stuff. They just have an army of lawyers, and they're like, I don't think you could last as long as we can. Future movie actor says, wonder how 24, especially on Fox, would play out with this political situation influence on media. Also, Trump clearly resents non-American films making money here, even though we need... Oh, I don't think that he does. I don't know if that's true. Let's see here. That's right, Madav. Universal does have a female executive, but she's the head of the film division. Dana Walden would be head of the entire Disney company. That's very different. Nobody even knows who's the head of the film division for... who is it? Like Alan Bergman, I think? That just tells you a lot right there. But it used to be Alan Horn. He was great. He came over from Warner Brothers. Bob Iger lured him out of retirement to run Disney Film, and he did a wonderful job. Jonathan Santos says Johnny Depp back as Jack Sparrow. I don't think they want to wade into that pool right now. They're like, we just can't have another fight. Professor Riggle says if Disney sells Star Wars, we might be able to heal as a nation. No way. They would tank their stock. They would get sued over that. And even that, and then I'd be like, I can't help you, Disney. Because, that's such a huge moneymaker for them. They'll never sell it. X-Men Superfan says, Perlmutter sidelined the X-Men, fought against characters of color and female. Yes, Isaac Perlmutter was a horrible person. Horrible. He did not like me. He's a horrible. No one liked him there. He was just a horrible person. I told you that. I think I told you that story once. There was a story about how somebody left their dishes in the kitchen, and he got so upset about it over at Marvel that he took the dishes to his office and said, like, over the speaker system, or sent an email out being like, whoever left their dishes in the kitchen, come get them. And I was like, that was so stupid because, and it wasn't me. I didn't eat at the office back when I was there briefly. But I'd be like, who's going to go collect their dishes? Those dishes are yours now, Isaac. Okay. Tyler says, I met Elizabeth Olsen at LA Comic-Con Saturday. She was lovely and was loving meeting the fans. I think, Tyler, I think she's interested in that. Actors make a lot of money going to comic book conventions. And so I think that is what's driving her. I mean, we'll see. I hope she comes back. Although I got to tell you, I do think it's maybe been a little bit too long. Hey, Joe. That's right, Pi. Bob Iger is CEO of Disney at the moment, but, he's supposed to be retiring. Hey, Joe Canup. Let's see here. Britt says, what are your thoughts on Bob's leadership? I think he's doing the best he can in a really difficult situation. I think Bob Iger is, he's cutthroat, but you got to be cutthroat to run Disney. Many people know that Disney is like, let's just say, the most aggressive of the studios, inside and out. Not only with the way they deal with people outside, but the way they deal with their own people. Very aggressive company. And I think that Bob Iger changed Hollywood. His legacy will always be that he purchased Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars. And that also he moved Hollywood into the streaming era. I mean, everybody went into streaming services because he built Disney Plus. And I think that's really a big deal. And so I think that his legacy is secured. I'm not concerned about Bob Iger's legacy. Oh, thanks for the tea, Xtina. Let's see here. And then Kit Kat says, love the content, Grace, especially. I'm so glad you feel that way. And then J. Jonah Jameson says, can we even call Disney Plus a success? I think you can. I think it's not perfect and they're still figuring out, but it just makes so much money. It makes so much money through subscriptions. I think they'll figure it out, but I think it's a major building block and a big part of the empire at this point. I mean, people get upset with it and it's causing some problems for them, but I think it's very, very successful for them. And I would agree with Mystic that it is the best of the streaming services from the studios. I would agree with that. I would agree. I think, and isn't that interesting? I do think it's the best one. X-Men Superfan wants to point out that Ryan Murphy always takes a lot of liberties. I'm excited for Monster on Friday. I'm a little scared too. So we'll see. All right, you want to boop, Mystic? Big Bedroom. That's a crazy production company name. Best Disney Plus show? I think the early days with WandaVision and Loki. That was pretty exciting stuff. And also I think Shogun and Alien Earth, which are technically Hulu shows, but that's going to be rolled into Disney Plus. The Mandalorian early days was really great. They've done some great stuff, Oh, but that's right, Cam. That's not technically theirs, but yes, Bluey. Bluey is what Disney Plus is built on. Bluey is the Mickey Mouse of Disney Plus. That's hilarious. Hey, Maria says they could make some more money with Disney Pluses if they put some movies back in the vault. I think that's a great idea, Maria, and I agree. I feel that not everything that Disney ever made should be available at every time on Disney Plus. I think they should still have the vault. But instead of having to buy it on DVD or physical copies, physical media, you would have to resubscribe. They'd be like, oh, Sleeping Beauty's back for 2 months. You'd be like, oh, hot damn, I better get on there. Or, oh, that's right, Madav, Netflix kind of has that situation. Like, it's only going to be here for a little bit longer. That's great, Madav. I don't know why Disney, I think that to start, that was the appeal of signing up for Disney Plus. But I feel that's definitely something they should do. And whoever's running Disney Plus is a moron, because how have they not thought of that? Sometimes I'm a little aggressive. Maybe that was too aggressive. But I think they should do that. I mean, that's stupid that they don't do it. Why has nobody thought of that over there? Maybe they have, and they have some, maybe the computer's like, no, that would not work for us. And I'd be like, let's just try it. Okay. Let's get on to the next story of the day. How are we doing on time? Oh my gosh, I'm very chatty today. All right, don't worry, we'll still do the Q&A. I don't have anywhere I have to be this evening. Okay. Bloop, 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 bloop. I have a smaller little lighting ring here, so it's harder for me to see. Darn it! What am I looking at? Where'd my arrow go? There it is. Oh my god. I gotta fix this. Okay. I'll move this up. Now I can see. Haha. All right. That's right. Here we go. Boom, baby. Finally, a non-political story. Okay, here we go. Superman. Alrighty. So, 13 million views since September 19th. That happens to be the absolute biggest debut for a theatrical film on HBO since Barbie. And I tried to find out what Barbie's numbers were. I was like, oh wow, well what did Barbie do? Nobody knows. They never released the Barbie numbers, even now, which means they must be much bigger than Superman. Or they would release them. They'd be like, Barbie was 15 or 14. But since they didn't, the Barbie numbers must be much bigger, much bigger. So that's hilarious. So yeah, but still, they've released a lot of theatrical releases on Max since then. Superman is the next biggest one since Barbie. Oh no, I covered up poor Barbie's face. Hold on. Sorry, Barbie. But you know what's really funny to me? It's like looking at a toy box. Superman and Barbie. I love it so much. And I think that kind of goes to show where people are right now. People like big IP. And so I think that's just phenomenal. And I have another thought as well, which we'll talk about when we get a little bit lower down. But I just think that's great. You know, like it's very cozy. You're like, oh, you want to play with Superman? You want to play with Barbie? I think it's a lot of fun. And I think that's why IP is so popular right now. Now, yes, Superman had a 70-day theatrical window. It was in theaters for 70 days before, it came out in early July. And then it hit digital in August. Is that 70 days? I thought is it 70 days until now? This doesn't make any sense. I think no. Maybe it was 35. I don't know. These numbers are wrong. All right. So anyway, it was in theaters for a decent amount of time. And then, of course, it went to premium. 70 days until now. Okay. So 70 days until going to Max. And I guess it was more than 35 days before it went to premium VOD. Maybe it's been 30 days on digital. Well, anyway, the windows were not super short, but they weren't long either. Now, somebody wrote a comment to me when I said this is what we were going to talk about. So I said, this is what we're going to talk about today. And someone said, well, wait a minute. Netflix movies do way more than 13 million views in a week. Why are we making such a big deal about Superman? And clearly, being in a theatrical space does not help them on the digital space. Well, this is what I would say on that. First of all, I would say, it's all about, with a theatrical release, it's all about tiers, right? So first you make your millions of dollars, or hundreds of millions of dollars in this case, off of the theatrical release. Superman, ended up making 600 something million dollars, and it, a tiers, like a tier of a cake, like tiers. That's what I mean. Yeah, that's right, tiers. And then, it brought in, it made some profit. Didn't make a huge amount of money, but, it was at least in the black. Then it makes a ton of money on digital. I bet you Superman, because, it's already made back its investment in the theatrical space. So after that, it's mostly gravy. So a lot of metaphors here, baby. All right, so it's making a lot of money on digital. That's where it's going to make a lot of money. It's going to make a lot of money on digital. You know, Wicked made a ton of money on digital, like in the first week. And they didn't even announce how much Superman made on digital. And it was doing quite well on digital for a while. Then it moves to Max, HBO Max, where it drives subscriptions. Because remember, you don't pay for Superman individually. You just have to be a subscriber to HBO Max. So at that point, it's to either sign up new subscribers or to combat churn and make sure you don't unsubscribe from HBO Max. So that's, and there's other ways for and also that's right, Maria, some people bought it. Some people paid to buy it on physical media or digital, and that's an even higher price point. So that, there's so many different, that's how Hollywood works. There's so many ways to make money off the same product. And the reasoning is that if you release it theatrically, it seems like a bigger deal. And so it does better in the long run. People are like, I should pay for it because it was in theaters. Whereas if it was a straight to streaming movie, I'll just wait till I don't have to pay anything extra for it. That's kind of the way it works. Now, what's great about it, I forgot to load this image. Hold on. Is that it lifted up other DC content. There we go. Here we go. All right, so look. So not only did people watch Superman, but they watched other DC content. That is really important. As you can see, for this time period, Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, went up at 670%. Superman, the first Superman Christopher Reeve film, went up 155% in terms of viewership. Superman, why is anybody watching? Who said Superman? Hey, Tyler. Who said Superman Returns was good? Wasn't it Quentin Tarantino or something? And you're like, what's wrong with you, Quentin Tarantino? That made 120% jump, and Man of Steel went up 40%. So that's the way it's supposed to work. People not only come onto the site, they get the most out of their subscription. And that really is wonderful. And that, and it creates people being stronger fans. So that's a really, really big deal. And that's what Warner Brothers wants to see. And it makes a really good headline. But something I want to point out, though, is that they made more of an effort, in my opinion. Okay? And I wish that Hollywood would make more of an effort more often. Because look at the results that they get. For instance, here is the Superman interface for HBO Max. That's a great image of him. And they say the Fortress of Solitude. Look at that. Then they also have some newspapers, like the Daily Planet's running some headlines that you can click on with extras. And then look, they go Lex Luthor's pocket prison. So you can enter this other dimension and you can go and look at other fun content. Not only DC, but other popular content that's on the site. That's a great idea. Like, it's really cool, and I think it makes it more of an event and something that you want to do. Like, for instance, this is what they did for Barbie. Look how good that looks. That's right. They made an effort, Ryan. Oh, my God. Like, we can't believe it. Like, that looks great. Welcome to Barbie Land. They have Barbie-related content. They've got avatars that you can click on. I mean, it was just really cool. And what if they did this for every movie? What if every time they launched a movie on Max, they made this effort? Like, I know that Zazzy's pretty cheap, but I mean, how much does it cost to pay like an intern or someone just out of college and be like, reskin the site? I mean, it would make that's right, Disney Plus should do this. Everybody should do this. I think this theming, who's my Batman profile? Who's my HBO Max profile? It's Batman. And it's animated series Batman, I think. I love me some Batman. That's right, it is like those old DVD menus. I mean, it's fantastic. And I really feel, don't tell me they're using AI for that, Cam. You just broke my heart. But anyway, yeah, I mean, this is a really great idea, and it should be this way for every single release. Every release should do this. And also for like when a show is popular, You don't have to do it, I guess, all the time. But I think it would be nice to, like when Game of Thrones is on, right? Or when they were doing White Lotus. Like, why is everybody so afraid of theming? I think it's really fun and people love it. So I think this is a big part of why these movies performed better on HBO Max. Now, the other good thing is that it's also not only making more people watch DC content, but it is making people talk about upcoming DC content, particularly James Gunn's projects, right? He's talking a lot about Peacemaker. He's already talking about his next Superman movie, which he says is as much a Lex Luthor. I hope he doesn't mess up Lex Luthor. He took him in a very adult direction on Peacemaker the last episode. And I think we're all like, what are you going to do to Lex? You know, like, I mean, I'm all for making Lex Luthor a bigger character. I'm a big Lex Luthor fan myself. You know, James Gunn and I are, in some ways, strikingly similar. But yeah, so he wants to do that. But you know what he's not talking about at all? He's not talking about Supergirl or Clayface at all. And that's the problem also. You know, like, he's not only doing self-promotion, as we talked about on Movie Math on Sunday, but, like, he's just only promoting his own projects. Like, he's the head of DC. Like, why not? Why? Like, he's saying, oh, Peacemaker is so important. It leads into Man of Tomorrow. And you're like, but what about the two movies that are happening? And what about Lanterns? I mean, some of you think the Lanterns might show up on the show. I hope they do. I hope they do, you know? I mean, I don't want James Gunn only to be looking out for James Gunn. He talks about Matt Reeves as the Batman a lot. That's true. But I think it's because he's a big fan of that. And also because he has a Batman problem. But I don't understand why Peacemaker doesn't lead into Supergirl. Maybe because he didn't write that, and so he can't control it. But I don't know. I wish he was talking about Supergirl and Clayface. Those are the projects that are coming up next. Yeah, Elise. I mean, Supergirl has done filming, and Clayface, I think, is almost wrapped. So it's just weird to me that he's only talking about his own projects. I think he'll probably get a Supergirl trailer at the end of the year because it comes out in late June. So you'll probably get one like when they dropped the Superman trailer, which is in December. So, any questions about this situation? Billy says, what about the tariffs on these movies? So they're already filmed. I think it would only be for films that were going forward. You can't put a tariff on something when they already made the decision. I mean, Trump probably could if you wanted to really threaten it, but I'm glad you guys like the side ponytail so much. I saw your comment there, Junior. I appreciate it because sometimes I need to go side ponytail. That's right, Danny. Why isn't he talking about Lanterns? I think he's talked about it a little bit. I think he talks about the projects he's the most excited about. But again, then you're like, why don't we talk about Supergirl and Clayface, man? I'm excited about it. You guys are all very sweet. Are you ready to move to the Q&A? Let's see here. Beyond the Reef says, what about the new Batman announcement? Oh, there hasn't been a Batman announcement, really, I don't believe. Elise says he talked about Clayface on his podcast. Well, that's good. He's in too many places talking about too much stuff. I can't look at all of it. I got stuff to do, man. I mean, I consume like news and content like all day long. That's like what I do for a living. And like still there's too much. Oh, let's see here. X-Men Superfan says, do you believe that he should focus more on stuff like Waller, Paradise Lost, and Wonder Woman just to balance things out? He should, but I don't want him to make all those things himself. You know, I want a variety of creative voices so that it feels more. Again, it doesn't feel like we're talking about DC. It feels like we're talking about James Gunn, and I think that is like. And by the way, James Gunn. A lot of people want to talk about James Gunn. He's like Disney. Very clickbaity, very, and that's one of the reasons he gets so much attention. And, you can't blame him for that. Good for him. But I think that he should have more self-control because I think he has to remember he's playing the long game. He wants to be the head of DC for like a decade. And so, that's really important. X-Men Superfan, I think that woman, Anna something, is writing some other stuff. She's writing, she wrote Supergirl, I think, or whatever. And I think she's writing the Wonder Woman movie. So he does have a woman that he's working with, even though she's never really written anything before. Let's go to the Q&A. Brett says, will Lanterns be a limited series and feature other Lanterns? Nobody knows. And I have to say, I do really respect James Gunn's ability to clamp down on spoilers. He really did that. And you would think it would be impossible to do, but yet he's managed to do it. Thank you, Pi. All right, Q&A, 10 minutes. 10 minutes, baby. Mika, I'll cover any news that comes out of New York Comic Con, sure. But New York Comic Con doesn't tend to be a big news convention. Rippy says, do you think Disney should bury Pocahontas like they did Song of the South? They kind of have, though, don't you think? The way they portrayed the horrific events. It is very bad, the way they were considering what actually happened with Pocahontas. And I think that that's one of the reasons that they never, ever do anything with it. Dory Does Voices says, what are the chances we will get Supergirl trailer at the Super Bowl? Well, I think you're going to have them. I think because Superman did pretty well, certainly better than any of the Marvel movies, right? I think they're going to follow that exact same pattern. So you're going to see, you're going to see probably a trailer in December, I would think. Some kind of like something at the Puppy Bowl. Remember, Warner Brothers airs the Puppy Bowl, so it costs them no money at all to advertise on the Puppy Bowl. And who's in Supergirl? Crypto. He's in Supergirl as well. So they'll probably have. I don't know. That'll become the DC Puppy Bowl, I guess. I don't know if they're going to have a new Mortal Kombat 2 trailer, Josh. I think they probably would have if the movie had stuck to its original release date, but it seems too early for me now to have another trailer. Danny, I'm not watching Task. I couldn't get through the first episode. I know some people are liking it, but I have not. Hey, Elise, welcome back. It's nice to see you again. Jonathan, yes, I'm very excited to see Huntrix perform Golden live in person as human beings on Jimmy Fallon next week. That's going to be really fun. Fahad says, what do you think the effect of the World Cup will do to Hollywood since it'll be in the U.S. next summer? Do you think it is affected? I don't know. Let's just see if we don't have... I don't want to have any more Ryder Cup problems. It was tough with the crowd. Let's see here. We'll see what happens. I don't know. The World Cup is really tough. Maybe that's one of the reasons yeah, you're right. The Doomsday moved. They were like, summer 2026, that's the summer of Grand Theft Auto and the World Cup, baby. That's a real concern. But, not for American box office. Although I guess maybe because it is in the United States. My friend once, I remember a couple of years ago, I was watching the World Cup for the first time. It became suddenly very popular in America for some reason. And my friend called it the Battle of the Male Supermodels. And so I always think of it that way now. Because it's very true. It's very funny. Jesus says, hey, Grace, thanks for being I'm so glad. And thank you, Jesus. You're always very sweet. David says, will the next Godzilla Kong movie be as successful as the last one? I think so. I think Adam Wingard has a really good handle on that franchise. Fans were so happy with the last entry. Let's see here. Big Bedroom says, Gaga has done a nice job getting us to forget about Joker 2. Any advice for her? I would suggest, Gaga fans are so mean. I would suggest that Lady Gaga switch it up. I think that she's just doing the same old. I think that she just needs to really stop disappointing her fans. Joker 2, but also I think one of the reasons pointed about Wednesday season 2, where she didn't really show up, and then I thought it was nice forming with her at her tour. Ortega, where was Wednesday? Don't do it if you don't have the star. Let's see here. The Charles Merritt says, do you still think Mr. Freeze is the villain of Batman 2? I hope so, although Jeremy Strong just signed on to do the Social Reckoning, the Social Network sequel, so he probably wouldn't be available for Mr. Freeze, so I don't know if I even want to do it anymore if it can't be Jeremy Strong. Forget it. I don't want to do it anymore, whatever. Cam, I saw the first season of Loot, but then I stopped watching it. But I did enjoy the first season. Astronomy, I considered the James Mangold story that Paramount just signed a 5-picture deal with him. That made me think he's never making Swamp Thing. That doesn't mean he's exclusive to Paramount, but that's probably where he's going to put the bulk of his energy. I like James Mangold, but I don't think he's a huge get. It's not like they got Jimmy C. or Steven Spielberg or Christopher Nolan. Let's see here. Ian, Joker 2 was not her fault whatsoever. A lot of her best stuff is on the cutting room floor, I'm sure. well, J. Jonah Jameson, on that note, reading the scripts wouldn't help Lady Gaga because they changed that movie in production and in post. And she has no control over that. It's really a shame. Todd Phillips did her dirty. Why is it freezing and lagging? I have no control over it. Is it not working? Oh. It's got a problem. Now. Is it working now? Ooh. How about now? Okay, it should be working now. It says I have an excellent connection. I don't know. You know, I'm on an office internet. Uncool, my friends. I apologize. I'll have to check to see what's going on. All right, let me just take a few more questions. I'm sorry about that. Thoughts on the way song seems to be evolving with, the best song with Golden and the new Wicked songs? I think Wicked will probably win because it might not win anything else. And I don't think they're going to want Wicked to go home empty-handed. So I think that's probably what's going to happen. Pie, I don't think that's an awards contender. I think Amanda Seyfried's over. Let's see here. Antonio says, can we just let James Gunn cook? I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I just want to eat what he's serving. I don't want to talk to the chef constantly. It's like, that's a good example. You know, like, I really liked Superman, and I'm enjoying Peacemaker. You know, but like, let me just enjoy him. I mean, honestly, I do think that he's putting out good content. Alfie says, do you think the way Stranger Things 5 is releasing will make it difficult to cover? I sure do. I don't know what I'm going to do. If they don't give out screeners in advance, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to cover it. It's going to be like Squid Game season 3 all over again. Like, it's going to be too hard to cover, you know, because it's during the holidays. Like, for instance, the first drop is for Thanksgiving, right? Like, what am I supposed to do? Say, sorry, family. I got to go and watch 3 or 4 episodes of Stranger Things and cover it. I mean, like, my Thanksgiving is really booked. You know, like, I make videos in advance usually for a situation like that. But I'm, like, not going to not go get my family Christmas tree because I got to go cover Stranger Things. You know, and I resent Netflix for potentially putting me in that position, to be honest with you. You know, like, why do you do that to me? Like, do they not value what reactors and breakdown people do for their content? You know, like I could do the New Year's one because, like, after New Year's nothing happens, right? So that's no problem. Like, January 1st and 2nd, that's not a problem. But like one of my, I guess Christmas isn't too bad either, but like that Thanksgiving one, like, F you, man. Like, it's like, not you, but I mean, F you, Netflix. Like, it just puts me in such a difficult position. And then it makes me resentful. And then I'm just like, I hate the whole thing. And it just, so it's like, it's really not cool. So let's just see what happens. Hopefully they want us to be able to vote for it for Critics' Choice. And so they'll give us screeners. But like, it's really annoying. The Guy Tie, they don't give out screeners for everything. Like, nobody's getting screeners for Monster, apparently. You know, I was like, can I get, like, not only did they not give screeners out, but that's like an announcement on the press website. They're like, no screeners. We hope you watch it. And you're like, I'm going to try and cover Monster, actually. But let me see if I have time. I'm trying, because, you know, I covered White Lotus a couple of days late, and you guys pointed out that it actually did pretty well still as a video. Season 3. So I might do it, you know. I mean, maybe there's like things I can cover a day or two later. But it's tough. All right, I better get going. I'm sorry about those technical difficulties. I hope that doesn't happen again. Danny, my Critics' Choice nominations for my live, that'll be, you know, the nominations will be announced, I think late December, like early December, actually. Let me go look at the date. 1 second. All right, so the announcement is December 4th and December 5th for the TV and film nominations. So I will do, so that means, whoa, no wonder they're so aggressive. Here we go. All righty. I can start nominating. The deadline for my ballot is December 3rd. So I will cover it right around then. And I'll tell you what I voted for, and then we'll go over the